Welcome to Pro and Con. I'm Konrad Ejbich. Today, my guest is Bruce Tyrrell. He's the managing director of Tyrrell Wines of Australia. Bruce is the fourth generation of winemakers, and the Tyrrell family has been growing grapes since 1858 and making wine since 1863.
That's it?
That's it. Now, according to your website, the family goes back to William the Conqueror, and one of your earliest predecessors killed the King of England.
Yeah, we've actually got a few assassins in the family along the line. William Rufus, firstborn King of England, he was about number 5 or 6 in line for the throne when William the Conqueror.
Was it an accident or was that on purpose?
Well, we think it was on purpose because William got to be number 1 by killing everybody in the line above him. But was out hunting in the New Forest for deer with Sir Walter Tyrrell, who was supposedly the best shot with a bow and arrow in England at the time, and from 20 paces Sir Walter missed the deer and hit the king between the shoulder blades. So it probably wasn't an accident.
Now, is that why your family moved to Australia?
No, that was a bit later on. And actually the two little princes in the tower, Richard III, that was one of our lot as well.
No kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding. Now it was many generations later. It was like 1854, I believe, that Edward Tyrrell moved to Australia.
Yeah, his uncle had come out 7 years before that, and he was the first Anglican Bishop of Newcastle. And his diocese covered about 20% of the land mass of Australia.
Wow.
So he spent a long time in the church and did very well.
That's about what you cover now in wines, isn't it? What, 20% of the land mass? No. You started off with I think the first purchase was about 320 acres of land in the Hunter Valley.
Yeah, you could take, our great-grandfather took up with what was called a conditional purchase, which meant you took control of a maximum of 320 acres, and you had to work it and develop it and
a certain amount by a certain date.
Yeah, by a certain date, and then you paid it off at a cheap price.
Okay. So how many acres of grapes do you own today?
Today we own about 500 acres.
Okay, but you also contract others.
Yeah, we've got a number of grape growers, and then occasionally we'll buy some wine in the bulk market.
Right.
But yeah, basically we've got our own, and probably buy off about the same area.
What's the most unusual variety that you grow?
Oh, gee, most unusual variety today, probably Trebbiano.
And why? What do you do with it? Do you make wine or
no, we make wine from it.
Brandy?
But in the really hot, dry, the drought years, we actually pick it really early when it's got no flavour and it's really high in acid. And we use that to break our reds down a bit.
To break the reds down?
Yeah.
The Shiraz, like this broken bat. Be careful how I say it.
Yeah, in a year like 2007, which was very hot, the end of the severe drought we went through, the reds were over-concentrated and they were a bit low in acid. So the bit of Trebbiano just reverses all of that, but it does it naturally.
Okay, like I know that in the Côte d'Iron they tend to do that with Viognier to add a little perfume to soften it, etc. Trebbiano doesn't do that. It's just like
totally
you're using. It's like watering it down, but not using water.
But not using water. Yeah, exactly.
Excellent.
So you reduce the sugar, increase the acid, lower the pH, but do it naturally.
Mm-hmm. Now, going back to your acreage there, one of your most famous vineyards, I think, is Long Flat. Well, I don't know if I'd call it most famous. It's certainly the vineyard that I first came across. I guess it was 1985 or something like that. Suddenly there were container loads of Long Flat here.
Yeah. We actually don't own it anymore. We sold the brand about 10 years ago
to
a company called Cheviot Bridge.
Okay.
And we'd done Long Flat too well. And we were having great difficulty getting recognised for the better wines in our portfolio.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I thought that Long Flat is it's an extremely long vineyard.
We used to say it's stretched from Queensland to Perth.
That it was the longest single vineyard in Australia.
Yeah, when it had a truck running backwards and forwards in the middle of it. It's only a tiny little vineyard. It's now called Johnno's because when we sold the label we had to come up with a new name, and Johnno's the oldest of my 2 boys. And it's only about 4 acres or so. So a full Long Flat.
It's like one row that goes for 17 miles.
Yeah, just about. Yeah, with that sort of thing.
Right. Today, Today, there's a bit of a decline in interest in Australian wine, with folks seeming to be more excited about Chile and particularly Argentina and some Malbec.
Yeah.
What do you do to reverse that trend and put Australian wines back to top of mind?
One of the things we've been doing, and we were actually here last year, we have a group of us called Australia's First Families of Wine. And we're 12 of the older companies.
And they're all family owned, or any of them corporately owned?
No. If you're corporately owned, you're out. It's got to be family owned, got to be multi-generational, all of those. Quite strict criteria. And so we've been back in the marketplace talking about the better end of Australia. In Vancouver last year, we hear a guy said, I've been pumping cheap wine into people's tanks for 5 or 6 years, and I'd forgotten that all these great Australian wines existed. And that's where we have to go. You know, we, with the strength of our dollar, and Canadians know about that, and an oversupply of wine around the world. You know, it's the middle and better end of Australia that we've got to really.
Well, it's also
we've got to do things better than everyone else, and we've got to make sure they know about it.
When you say better, we're not talking just about winemaking. It's all aspects, marketing, etc. But also stylistically, the wines. There's still a lot of people who think of Australian wines as those big monsters, and you're really toning them down both in alcohol and in more finesse. I can't believe the finesse on this Shiraz. That's broken. It's a broken back Shiraz.
Broken back Shiraz. Yeah. Look, Australia's got 61 different regions, and they've all got different characters, and we do get a bit focused in on the Barossa and McLaren Vale, which are those really big areas. But you know, areas like the Hunter, Margaret River, Western Australia, there's a strip across the middle of Victoria, Great Western, Grampians, Heathcote, where we're making much finer, more elegant reds.
And how do you do that? I mean, it's so hot that your natural alcohols are 14-15%. So how do you get, this is 12.9, I believe, 12.9%.
12.9 alcohol.
Yeah, how do you get that? A little bit of Trebbiano, Bill?
No, not in that. No, that's 10 was a bit of a lighter year. Look, we've been through this period of 10 years in Australia of severe drought. And so the picking time has shortened. But once your red fermenters are full, you've got to wait. And that's where a lot of the high alcohol has come from. Because
I don't understand exactly what you mean. Where does the higher alcohol come from in that?
Well, you're picking at higher sugars.
Like you're picking earlier.
Well, no, you're picking later because you can't pick when you want to, because you've already got all your red fermentation space full. So once those fermenters are full, you've got to wait till they're empty till you can pick any more grapes. But you really would have liked to pick them earlier. And so at the end of vintage, you've got these higher alcohol reds because the sugars are naturally high.
Right.
We had one lot come in this year, had we fermented it out dry, it would have been 18.5 alcohol.
Wow. So are you reducing the alcohol like through reverse osmosis?
No,
or?
Look, in Hunter, again, different region. We're north of Sydney. We're the most northerly region, which means we get our flavours early, because our maturation's earlier in summer. And so we're able to pick it at this sort of level. So at 13, those grapes are ripe at 13 alcohol, which is wonderful because two people on a Tuesday night at 13 alcohol think about opening the second bottle.
No kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding. What's been the toughest moment for your company, and how did you get over it?
Toughest moments.
Was it during while you've been managing director, or your father, Murray?
We've had a few toughies. I suppose of modern time, it has been in our area both 2008 and this year. We had very wet vintages, and basically we have no Hunter Valley Reds out of 2008 and 2012, which makes a real hole in our stock to sale.
Yeah, not to mention in your bank account.
Yeah. The bank manager's getting a bit harder to get on with.
You're a huge sports fan. Cricket in particular.
Yeah, cricket. I love my cricket. Cricket and rugby.
Cricket and rugby. And you played professionally, didn't you? Or
I played I played at a level higher than I probably should have for my age in rugby. In cricket, I was probably the worst cricketer on the globe. My eyes, because of my eyes, I couldn't see the ball move off the wicket, so I was gone.
I get it.
But I love it. I'm not the greatest cricket fanatic.
So, when you were not a kid, but just sort of at that age where you were trying to decide your future, what would you have done if you hadn't gone into the family wine business? Was that kind of was it forced on you? Did you go willingly? You wanted to right from the start?
I don't think I was dragged by the nose. But this industry, there's too much fun. You meet too many nice people. It's a very jealous mistress. But you do meet a heap of nice people. You get to see the world. You eat in some of the great restaurants. All of those things. So, no, I think it was a natural progression.
I know so many people who've gotten into the wine business by accident. I'm one of them, by accident, and they don't want out. We just don't want out.
Yeah, it does that a bit.
It does.
But it is a very and at the end a jealous mistress. But in the end, you are a farmer, and I think that's one of the things that everyone in our game has to remember. That we are farmers, and we're very much at the whim of the weather.
Most farmers who I know have a few superstitions. Tell me about yours.
Never cancel the first night's picking of harvest. If you do that, the time of your harvest, this is my superstition, will be the logistics of vintage will be a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
So I've never done it. I've probably picked a couple of times I shouldn't have. And never wash my car.
I wanted to know more about that.
But
not washing your car.
I washed my car just before vintage in 1976. And all bar 3 days that we picked, there were only 3 days that we picked that it didn't rain. So that's been a superstition.
And as it works, is it?
Yeah, well, some bugger washed it for me without telling me before this vintage, and it was very wet.
Oh God! Is he fired?
No, it was a guy in a car park in Sydney.
No kidding. So what's next for you? And you're a huge success. You're one of the first families of wine. What would you like to achieve next?
Oh, I think I'd like to see Australia further back up the tree. That there's more recognition for the quality and the diversity of style in Australia. And it's very hard for people, like Canadians can do it because Canada's bigger than Australia. But when you talk to Europeans about Australia being bigger than Europe, you can see the eyes glaze over.
Well, 3/4 of it is desert, isn't it?
Yeah, 3/4 of it's desert.
I mean, you can't grow anything there, can you?
No, unless we get some water we can, but that's not look like it's going to happen for a while.
That's going to be an issue for everyone soon.
Yeah, it will.
Too much in some places and not enough in others.
And we're going through all of this global warming arguments in Australia at the moment. And 3 years ago we were told the Murray River, which is the heart of Australians' food producing river, would never flood again. At the moment it's going to be in flood for the next 5 years.
Wow. So,
we have to stop listening to the academic scientists and listen to the farmers a bit more, who actually understand what makes all that system work.
Yeah.
It's a problem for Australia. But yeah, look, our industry needs to be back up and doing better and getting even more recognition worldwide for the great regional wines that we make.
Great regional wines. Let's end on that. That's fantastic. Thank you very much for being here, Bruce.
Okay, thank you.
My guest has been Bruce Tyrrell, and stay tuned for more wonderful guests here on Pro and Con, right in the Wine Zone. Till next time. Bye-bye.
Too easy.